Most of the biggest mistakes that I've made in my life didn't happen because I didn't have enough information. They happened because I didn't follow my gut. And the clearest example of that, for better or for worse, happened when I was on The Bachelor. A lot of people think the show is about romance and drama or big TV moments. For me, the biggest lesson had nothing to do with any of that. It was about what happens when your gut is quietly telling you one thing and the world around you is screaming something else. When you're on a show like that, you're surrounded by a lot of people. And I don't just mean a few producers. There are dozens of people, sometimes more than 100 that are involved. I'm talking crew, producers, art people, executive. People have done this over and over again. And when you're in that environment, you start to assume something dangerous, that they know better than you. Because you think, they've seen this 100 times, they must know how this is supposed to go. And that's where things got really tricky for me. There came a moment towards the end of the show when I knew deep down that I didn't want to propose. It wasn't fear, it wasn't confusion. I had a small kid and it didn't feel right at all. And when I say gut, I don't mean logic. I mean that quiet internal voice that doesn't yell. It just sits there patiently waiting for you to listen. Mine was saying, something's off, don't do it. But once that moment came, the noise started. People would casually say things like, she's incredible, you're so lucky, this is how it works, you'll regret it if you don't do this. And there wasn't one thing that was malicious. Nobody was being mean, nobody was trying to hurt me. They were just trying to make a TV show. But there were a lot of opinions. And when you hear that same message enough times from confident people, it starts to feel like fact. At one point, I found out that her parents had been told I was reconsidering proposing, even though I had been clear that I wasn't. That should have been my moment to stop everything. That should have been the line. But instead, I paused. I told myself, maybe this is just how the show goes. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe everyone else sees something that I really don't. And it took me a while to own that, because ignoring your gut doesn't usually look dramatic. It's reasonable, it's calm, it's like going along with things just a little bit longer. Eventually, the owner of the show came down and said, Jason, that's just not how we do things around here. And at that moment, it really hit me. Not because anyone was wrong, but because I realized something important. Everyone else would walk away from this except me. I was the one who would have to live with this for the rest of my life. Here's the lesson that I took from that, and it's the one I still come back to every day. The loud voice in the room is usually the most confident, but confidence doesn't mean that voice is right. Just because everyone around you is saying, this is how we do it, doesn't mean it's the right move for you. Now let me tell you why I'm sharing this in a real estate video. Because I see the same thing playing out all the time when people are buying or selling a home. Different setting, but the same pressure. I see sellers getting told, just price it high, you can always come down. This is what everybody else is doing. You don't want to leave money on the table. And I see buyers hear things like, if you don't act now, you'll lose it. This is just how the market is. You'll regret not going for it. And again, most of the time, nobody's being dishonest, but there's a lot of noise. And when you're emotional or overwhelmed, it's really easy to start listening to the outside noise. Here's what I've learned from both that experience on TV and from my years in real estate. Nobody else has to live in your house. Nobody else is paying the mortgage. Nobody else has to live with the sale. Nobody else has to wake up every day with the decision you made. You do. Which means your gut matters more than anything else. That doesn't mean ignore advice. It means slow things down enough to actually hear yourself think. In real estate, my role isn't to push you towards a decision. It's to filter the noise, explain the options, be honest about the trade-offs, and then give you the space to decide what feels right in your life. If you feel pressured to do something just because that's how it's done, pause, ask questions, and listen to that voice that doesn't need to shout to be right. That's the difference between a decision that feels good for about 5 minutes and one that you feel good for the rest of your life. And that's it for today. If you have any questions about real estate, I'm always here.